Please welcome Fortinet's founder, chairman of the board, and chief executive officer, Ken Z.
I'm in the industry for 30 years, 3 companies, and I see the whole space growing a lot. Like compared to 20, 30 years ago, the industry like today is over 100 billion. So the network security is starting to become the biggest sector. It's over 20 billion, overtaking the endpoint security like 10 years ago, and it's still growing very, very fast. So for me, luckily, go through all these 3 generations network security. So my previous company, NetScreen, so we lead the first generation. We call the connection-based security, which is the firewall VPN. And a lot of our company actually in the first generation still existing today. So I sold my previous company, NetScreen, to Juniper, $4 billion. And then started Fortinet 20 years ago. We call the second generation, called the content security. Basically, look beyond the connection, inside the content, inside the application. So that's how the UTM next-gen firewall started. And starting to become the most network security today. But then industry still keeping changing. And we now in the third stage, the third generation, we call the infrastructure security now. So what's the difference between the first 2 generations and the current generation? It's the first 2 generations we call the perimeter security. So the firewall, or we call security gateway, deployed where the internet connection and the company internal network on the edge. So because inside the company, you connect by switch. So that's where they only care the connectivity and speed. They don't check what's the content, what's the application. So that's where the firewall, UTM, next-gen firewall, help you check in the content, application, the user, the device level. So that's where the primary security is. And but there's a lot of things changing today, making the perimeter security no longer enough. Because the network security protocol, even after this 30, 40 years in the internet space, and they still running the same protocol. They still don't go beyond the connectivity and speed. So that's where the perimeter security is starting to create some issues. You can see that's how this company here come here today, and the device get much smarter. So, and also the program running on the device also have a lot of content, have a lot of executable, and also a lot of agent-based attack happen. And there's so many ways you can connect in today, making the security more difficult, especially on network security. So that's where we're facing a lot of challenges today. And for all these IT people, you also get so many products, so many companies you have to manage. So that's all create a challenge for us. And that's the reason you can see today's attack breach. So there's data by IBM. So per attack costs over $3 million. And then there's billions of attacks every year happening. So that's making us have all the job security here. And but at the same time, we have to deal with it. How to reduce the attack, how to make the data more safe. Right? So that's what we're facing today. So from the traditional perimeter security, how we want to go next. So that's where we believe security, it keep expanding, especially network security. So go to the one side. That's where the SD-WAN, that's where the 5G, that's all the other whatever go inside the internet. And also, they also need to go internal, go to traditional network space. That's how the Wi-Fi space, that's how the switching, that's inside the company networking, we call it internal segmentation. So that's where we're keeping expanding the network security space. That's, I believe, network security will keep growing. Even already the biggest sector for the whole cybersecurity, but still a lot of potential to keep growing. So that's we talk about the third generation. We call it infrastructure security. Right? So that's where we need to keep deal with a lot of new connection, whether come from 5G, come from IoT, or we have to deal with a lot of device bring your own device to the workplace, and all this data go to the cloud, and also all these different applications, right? Not just whatever you're using in the workplace, but also a lot of data go to home, and same time, all your appliances get connected. So that's where today's, even the network security, we need to target the whole infrastructure. Whenever there's a connection, we need to see how network security can be applied. So that's what we call the infrastructure security. And I do believe going forward, we call the security-driven networking. The reason is really, up to today, you can look at the network protocol. They're still the same compared to 30, 40 years ago when internet started. They still run the TCP/IP, they still run the routing protocol. So the switch, all this still only deal with connectivity and speed. So that's only working in a trust environment. And then security, you usually deal with what's the bad content or intrusion, whatever, try to block it. You don't deal with all the good traffic. So the network security-driven networking is really how to make it all working together. Like example, so we're a company, we call security SD-WAN. Because SD-WAN is the first time you look at the application layer. Then you decide how the traffic may go through it. So security is the device, go above the connectivity and go above the connection there, and look at what's the content, what's the application, what's the user, what's the device, where the traffic coming from, and then make a decision whether to block it or let it go through. But they can also deal with the good traffic, make sure they have a different priority, different quality of control, and so that's how secure SD-WAN starting to take off as a huge market today, because that's the first time the networking side starting looking on the application to decide how to more efficient do the networking. I do believe once you combine network security together, you can based on the content to decide how you want to night the traffic. You can depend on the user. You can depend on the device. You can depend on whatever the data come from to make the decision to route the traffic. So that's, I believe, going forward, probably the next generation of internet, the routing protocol, the networking protocol, the switching protocol will decide the networking based on the content, based on the application, based on device, based on user, based on the data come from, or how important it is to make a decision how to do networking. That's I call the security-driven networking, and that's have a huge potential going forward. So that's the first topic I want to share a little bit. The second one actually is about, this is the slides come from Gartner. So you can see a lot of our company here try to address the cloud. But by this Gartner slides, they say the edge and the immersive technology will eat the cloud in the next few years. Just like 20, 30 years ago, the PC and server replaced the mainframe. And then 5 to 10 years ago, the cloud and mobile device replaced a lot of PC and server. So going forward, the edge and your wearable device, immersive device, was starting replacing the cloud and mobile. So that's by the Gartner. I do believe there's quite a lot of good reason behind it. Right? So that's where how we want to address, how we want to deal with the future trend. The reason is quite obvious, right? So that's where, look at how cloud can deal with security. This is the research by NSA. They just published research very recently. So by going to the cloud, you are not add additional security. You're actually more vulnerable. Because you need to deal with, share your data with other tenancy. You have to deal with access control. You have to deal with all the supply chain or other things probably not in your control because you have to put the data somewhere. So that's where the cloud transition do create some issue, security issue. They do add some easy management part, but there's other trade-off, right? So that's where you need to deal with both. Both the edge and security start getting more and more important. So you can see how this edge and security cloud all this integrate together, how complex it is, right? So it's really, it's everywhere. But also you can look at the reasons really, 98% of data generated on the edge, not by the cloud. And also by Gartner, almost 80% of data from edge never travel to the cloud. So this has to be working together, right? Otherwise, you don't see 80% data in the cloud. And also, most of the data generated in the edge, you better process there to be more efficient. So that's why I say all this cloud and edge better working together. And going forward, edge will play more and more important role. So for the enterprise, it will be better you deal with both cloud and edge, your own data center. That's where there's a lot of cloud providers even extend their cloud into the company data center, where the Outpost or some other one. So that's how important it is to address the whole infrastructure, not just the cloud. Also need to have the edge, also need to have whatever you have in your enterprise environment. So that's how I see this cloud and edge will play going forward. So the third thing I want to share is really, like I said, in the last 30, 40 years, network protocol is still the same. They only address the connectivity and speed. But the speed increased almost 1 million times. Right? From we deal with like a kilobit, megabit, now it's a gigabit, terabit now. But they still run the same protocol. They still only connect you together in the trust environment, and nothing beyond the connectivity. But look at how security gateway, network security gateway doing in the last 20, 30, 40 years. From 30 years ago, it's a very simple firewall. We call it connectivity security. Like firewall decide who can connect, who cannot connect. Because attack at that time is very simple. You need to be interactive to be connected to attack it. Because storage is not quite there, very expensive. You cannot put an agent into whatever the device there. And also, there's limited computing power. So that's where connecting with, we call it connector-based attacks working quite well. Then 20 years ago, when I started Fortinet, we need to go to look at the content. We need to look at our inside application. Because most attacks come from permitted connection. That's how the virus, all the intrusion, all this come in. So that's where the content security, application security, all this next-gen firewall, UTM all started. So we need to deal with 4 or 5 functions. Not just a firewall VPN, but also intrusion prevention, antivirus, the web content screening, a lot of things. But this device also sit together with network device. They need to be in line to stop the bad traffic. Even if they don't touch the good traffic, they have to be in line to stop the bad traffic. And today, you can see the network security gateway, how many functions, how many applications we have to deal with it. Easily 10 to 20 functions we have to deal with it. So all these functions need a lot of computing power. So that's the challenge we have, really, how to have all this computing power to deal with all this kind of content level, all this kind of data, and which in a very fast networking environment. So there's a huge computing power gap because process network traffic, still the same protocol, can be very, very easy, very, very fast. On average, network security, especially on the gateway level, they need about 100 times computing power to process the same throughput, same traffic on the switching routing base. So that's the challenge we're facing today. That's why network security is very expensive, very difficult to manage, very slow, because the computing power. So that's we do believe you do need to have how they deal with like a GPU, AI in the AI space and the TPU, all these things. You need to have some acceleration beyond the general purpose CPU. So you need to have a dedicated hardware, dedicated ASIC chip to boost your computing power to close the gap. Otherwise, you can see the gap will get bigger and bigger. Because now we'll get faster and faster, and the network security will get much slower to deal with all this bad traffic. And then luckily, we have SD-WAN. They can start to reroute the traffic based on application. Hope will be reroute some traffic based on the content. That can solve some of the problem when you combine network security together. But the computing gap still there, still have a huge issue. And so that's where you can see there's other things, really, the consolidation we keep talking about. A lot of IT people say, hey, I have too many products to manage. What's the best way to reduce the management cost? And how we can consolidate a lot of things together. It's happening in the network security industry. So 10, 12 years ago, so the top 4 vendors in the network security count on less than 40% of the total space, both on the unit shipment and also on the revenue. So today you can see the top 4 vendors count more than 60% of the total market. So the others keep on reducing, probably only about 30% today. So the consolidation do happen in the network security space. And also in the whole cybersecurity space, it's similar. So you can look at the whole industry, maybe over 100 billion. So what kind of platform, what kind of company can help in consolidate? So 10, 20 years ago, the endpoint company, whether Symantec or McAfee, I think they tried, right? So it's work a little bit, but not quite consolidate a lot. So now the network security company become the biggest sector for the whole cybersecurity space. We also try to see how we can help him integrate, consolidate, make him manage the whole security easy. That's why we try to address this whole infrastructure security now. And so what kind of company will be better positioned to do that? You need to integrate. So that's the first step. And also you need to automate. So automation is the target, is the final goal we try to achieve. Without automation, you cannot deal with all this attacking from all different sectors there. But automation needs to come from integration. So without integration, automation will not work in. So that's where we do believe network security has the best position to see a lot of data, a lot of traffic, to deal with endpoint, to deal with all this different data in the cloud, in the edge, and eventually helping to the integration to the automation. So we are lucky in a very good position to help in the industry lower the management cost. So that's where the 3 points I try to share with you, try to talk about it. Like first, so the traditional network security need to go beyond the perimeter-based security. So they need to go to the wide area side, go to SD-WAN, go to all the 5G, go to whatever SDN, and expanding from there. And that's all the IoT, all the other things going on there. And then also need to go internally, do the internal segmentation, replacing some of the switch, and same time deal with Wi-Fi security, deal with a lot of other devices inside the company. So that's where the network security need to be addressed, the whole infrastructure. So not just the perimeter anymore, need to go to the one side, need to go to the LAN side. So the second takeaway is really edge and cloud, both are very important. I think cloud in the security angle, they maybe deal with certain functions better, like management, like detection. But if you want to do the prevention, if you want to do the real time, like all this low latency traffic, you have to address the edge security. So that's where you need to have both edge and cloud security. And Gartner said edge will eat the cloud in a few years. So edge do have all the data, and they also have a lot of function need to perform in real time. And then the third is about the whole industry, right? So it's in the security space pretty good. All this old function never goes away. And then there's a new function, there's a new application, keeping adding every year. There's a many point solution to address some part of a security. But in the end, when the customer started using the device, they have to deal with so many different products. So how to do better integration, how to do better automation, that's starting facing the whole industry now. And I do believe now is the turn for the network security vendor to see how we can do to reduce all these management costs. So thank you all, and we're lucky we all working together try to solve the problem. Thank you very much.